Avatar versus Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Today we're going to be comparing both of these movies and seeing which one is actually the better movie from a biased perspective and an unbiased perspective, because I am a giant Avatar fan. I'm also just a giant fan of James Cameron movies. So let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are on Avatar 2, The Way of Water. It just came out in theaters. I'm very excited to see your guys' thoughts, as well as hit that like and subscribe. And if you enjoy content like this, I have tons of other videos up like this right now, and as well as a James Cameron film ranking, as well as a full-on Avatar 2 The Way of Water review and a original revisiting of the original Avatar that came out earlier this year. I'll put all those links up above and down below, but I definitely want to get your guys' thoughts on this movie. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know if you'd like to see me compare Avatar 2 to Terminator 2. But without further ado, let's get into this. In today's video, we have 7 categories to really rank from which Avatar movie is the better overall film. And going into this, at my number 1, it is better visual effects. Now, this one's hard to compare. When you compare both movies, visually, they look pretty much the same. It looks like everyone's expanded. It's been 13 years later. So this one became a little bit hard because attention to detail you can kind of look at, and obviously Avatar 2 is not out where we can study and analyze every little second of it. We only have trailers, 4K stills, and things that the of course, studio has put out. Within the first Avatar movie, there's not a 4K release yet, so we can only go off the 4K stills that were released for the re-release, as well as what is on the original Blu-ray. Now, comparing both of these movies, and after seeing the re-release 3 times earlier this year, and seeing Avatar 2, The Way of the Water 3 times already, and I already have my tickets lined up to see it 2 more times, I have to go with Avatar 2. I say this, and I say this with it. The details, of course, are expanded and structured so greatly in both movies when it comes down to the Na'vi and the facial structures and everything of that nature. But I think for me, like, comparing, let me say, like, Grace's character, Grace's avatar in there, Sigourney Weaver's. In the first movie, sometimes it looked a little bit off for me. Not because it was that, like, it was bad. I think it was more just that uncanny valley that it looks like Sigourney Weaver. Whereas in the new Avatar movie, every single Na'vi just looks wonderful and amazing, and the attention to detail in each and every one of them is great. Like, Cliff Curtis and Kate Winslet joined the cast here. I did not see Cliff Curtis or Kate Winslet. I knew it was them because of their voice, but specifically in the mocap and stuff, you can kind of see some lines in some ways of how it would be them, but overall, I really like that we didn't have that uncanny valley here, as well as water is one of the most hardest things to ever touch up in visual effects, and it is created here and more in such an extravagant and amazing way that, like, I still cannot believe that they didn't just fly to another planet and film on Pandora and have a bunch of Na'vi and alien people swim in the water and show us all their new creatures. It truly is a magnificent feat of what they were able to do, and I think for what they were able to develop for Avatar 2, it's better than the first one in almost every way. Avatar 2, The Way of the Water wins our first category, and our second category we're jumping into is better score. Now, clearly, some of the same themes and some of the same composing elements are in both Avatar films, but Avatar 1 was composed by James Horner, and Avatar 2 was composed by Simon Fraglin. Now, for me, looking at both composers, James Horner sadly passed away, and he was signed on to do all the other Avatar movies. Simon took his place, and Simon did, I think, a pretty good job with the score, but I am going to give the win to James Horner. I think something about that original score and hearing the themes and thematics through all of the entire originals Avatar film really hit light. Where I feel in Avatar The Way of the Water, some of them are reused a bit too much. Some of them are okay to reuse, but some of them I would have liked a couple new tones or new tonals to it. And again, I'm not like one of the biggest, snippiest people when it comes down to scores, but personally for me, when I watch Avatar 2, that's not one of the things that sticks out for me. But when I do rewatch the first Avatar movie, the score is something that does stick out to me for me. So I do have to give the win to Avatar 1. Now, my number 3, this is for all my 3D fans out there. Which Avatar movie had the better 3D? Of course, again, saw the re-release 3 times in theaters, saw it in 3D. Avatar 2, seen it 3 times, seen it in 3D. I'm going to give the win to Avatar 2. Now, I've seen both versions in theaters. Now, this is based on kind of the high frame rate versions that James Cameron has put into there, the new 4K things. And I am not a huge fan of this high frame rate thing. I think it looks weird to my eyes, and I thought the first Avatar movies re-released, the high frame rate did not look good. It was weird, it was jumbled, and sometimes when it would jump back to like the normal frame rate, it would just it felt very slowed down and my eyes could not adjust. For some reason in the second movie, my eyes could adjust 10 times better, even just on first viewing. And I think it's because the majority of the film is high frame rate, but also is that I think it makes the 3D actually even look stronger, specifically everything under the water. And like when you see a character throw a spear, shoot a bow, or these new crocodile creatures jump out of the water and grab someone and throw them, there's a lot of great elements in there that I actually thought were some of the best things to see within just 3D. And I was quite impressed again to see what Avatar 2 was able to double down and bring about. I feel like there are more memorable moments in Avatar 2 within the 3D than in the first movie, where the first movie everything was popped out. For me in the second one, you see little fishes just swim here and there, and it really brings to life the ocean and makes it for one of the most immersive experiences yet. And I compare it. If you've been on that Disney World ride, the Flight of Pandora, it is one of the best Disneyland rides ever in the entire world. This is like that for 3 hours, and I loved it. And I take that and I make that as a compliment. I don't say this is a Disneyland ride. It's just that damn immersive. And now we get into my fourth category, and with Avatar 2 so far winning 2 categories, at my number 4, better story. Now this one's gonna go down to a lot of comparison. Pacing wise is gonna include in this, story overall, copying, certain things like that, and I am automatically going to give this to Avatar 2, The Way of the Water. Avatar 2, for me, made it in a more emotional experience, specifically because we're seeing a family unit here. And this is just one thing to put into the James Cameron movies. He just makes simple stories with enthralling and very much immersive experience surrounded around them, and that's why I think general going audiences really vibe with everything that Cameron ever creates. And for me, when I look at the first Avatar movie, let me say this, and I love the first Avatar movie. I think it's perfect. I fucking adore that movie. But when you do go back and watch it, it has some pacing issues. There's no doubt about that. There are pacing issues. When the tree goes down, that next 20 minutes feels like 45 minutes. I will not even deny that. It just really drags, and every time it goes back to the humans, I'm like, go back to the Na'vi. That's what I'm focused on. That's what I want to go to. So sometimes the pacing drags a bit in the first movie, and I will always give it to that. The second movie is longer. It's 3 hours and like 12 minutes. It does not feel like 3 hours and 12 minutes. It feels like 2.5 hours. And that is a compliment. The first movie feels like over 3 hours. The second movie does not. And I have to give the win to that because, of course, it's more emotional than the first. And I do like that the pacing really fleshes it out. Where the first movie, again, great introduction, maybe copies a little bit too much from other stories that we've seen before. But it is a great introduction to everything in Pandora and these characters. So the first one is still a great story, but I really love the second one way more. On my number 5, it's better action. This one was actually really tough for me to dive into and see which one was actually going to be the winner, and that's specifically because both action set pieces in the third act are way different. Now, I might talk a little bit too spoilery, so if you haven't seen Avatar 2, The Way of the Water yet, I definitely recommend go see it, come back, finish the video, because when you look at both action sequences, Avatar 1 has more of a giant war sequence that does get a little bit more personal right at the end when he takes on Stephen Lang, and for me, the second movie, of course, they might go be wanting some revenge, Sully and Neytiri, and trying to save their kids as well. So for me, them going up against Stephen Lang again in there, it's a little bit more personal. And the third act itself is more of a survival type of aspect with this entire ship sinking and them trying to escape. And it's completely thrilling for the next like 45 minutes when all that last action set piece kicks off. And trying to save the whales and everything like that. I was very impressed with what they were able to do in Avatar 2 and also Avatar 1. I think, again, looking at them from thematical levels, both third acts are kick-ass and awesome. Maybe Avatar 2 has a couple better hand-to-hand combat sequences, specifically between Sully and Neytiri taking on a ton of different people at the very end of the story. But I also love the giant bombastic aerial sequences of the first movie. So I'm actually going to give this one a tie overall. I think both third acts are incredible. I think there's not really a winner with which one has the better action set piece. They are both completely different and both tie in and tie up their entire stories in an amazing way overall, and I have to give the win to both of them. So in this case, they're both getting a point. With that said, Avatar 2 still has more points than the first one, and jumping into my number 6, better villain, even though it is technically the same villain played by Stephen Lang, I have to give the win to Avatar 2. There's way more emotion in this character. There's way more stuff fleshed out for this character. He's not as one-dimensional now. And while technically it is a different version of him, which you will see if you've seen the movie, again, I'm not going to get into spoilers, maybe some more tidbits on that, but it's better. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. Like, it's flat out better. understand him a little bit more, and I feel like what they build up into this movie, specifically if you've seen the film, there's a lot of cool avenues that they're going to be able to go into the future of the Avatar film, since we do know that he will be the villain of 3 and 4 from what Cameron has stated. In our last category, now clearly if you've been counting, you know who the winner is, but I still want to talk about the last category, which is better side characters, and the better side characters is between Avatar 1 and Avatar 2. Now Avatar 2 does have a lot more, and maybe not all of them get the best development, maybe some of them I wanted a little bit more from, but some of the characters in the original Avatar movie, while we have Michelle Rodriguez, Norm, Grace, Neytiri, of course, was more of a side character in the first one. Sometimes she's even a side character in this one. Neytiri was really the only other one I really liked. Grace was a great character as well, but like Norm, kind of annoying sometimes, not gonna lie. Stephen Lang, kind of, Stephen Lang, and the CEO, also kind of annoying, played by Giovanni Ribisi, who every time I just see him, I just think that he kidnapped Ted from the Ted movie. But and does that weird dance, but I digress. Avatar 2 has the better side characters, and I say that Avatar 2 is the clear winner of this, and I love how they developed the kids in here. I was actually surprised and worried going in that the kids were going to get all the development, and pretty much they do. This is very much their movie. It's a coming-of-age story pretty much for them. I was worried that they were going to be annoying and bother me and do stupid things, and, they do things that kids do, but you understand from their perspective, and I love that personally. I adore it wholeheartedly, and I actually think it's one of the best aspects of Avatar itself. So with that said, Avatar 2, The Way of the Water is our clear winner, guys. I cannot wait to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you not? Let me know down below. Are you seeing Avatar this week? Did I just spoil some of the movie for you? Probably if you haven't seen it. But of course, guys, thank you so much again for watching this. Tons of videos coming up. If you're new here, hit that like and subscribe button. But of course, until next time, stay classy.